Federal Flaws, Perceiving the Problem. Segment 4, Madisonian Federalism. Hamiltonian federalism's broad powers have been shown by Jeffersonian federalism to be unjust and unstable. Jeffersonian federalism is unworkable without resorting to positive law. The number of positive law restrictions needed to fix Hamiltonian federalism would have required an entire reworking of the Constitution for the United States of America. James Madison came up with another idea. Madison had originally been a Federalist and was instrumental in creating the original Constitution. Madison changed sides and joined Thomas Jefferson in opposing a dominant central government. Madison was the author of the Bill of Rights. Madison knew he couldn't rebalance the Constitution to represent the Jeffersonian ideals of distinct spheres of influence. So Madison just changed the polarity of the Constitution. Instead of the federal government being the senior partner, Madison made the states the senior partner. Madison's solution to the legalese trick of the necessary and proper clause was the legalese trick of the 10th Amendment. Madison's language was so subtle, even Alexander Hamilton said the 10th Amendment didn't do anything. Here's the text of the 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. This amendment is a simple sentence with two subjects, the first of which is powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution. The second subject is powers not prohibited by the Constitution to the states. The two objects are the states respectively and the people. This amendment breaks down into four simple sentences, but since we are only talking about the balance of power between federal and state governments, we won't deal with the powers reserved to the people here. This leaves two simple sentences. The first simple sentence is, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution are reserved to the states respectively. The second simple sentence is, the powers not prohibited by the Constitution to the states are reserved to the states respectively. If we use a Venn diagram to show the meaning of these two statements, we see that the subject matter of delegated powers and prohibited powers overlap. Some powers are delegated to the United States and not prohibited to the states, like the power to create bankruptcy laws. Some powers are delegated to the United States and prohibited to the states, like the treaty-making power. Some powers are not delegated to the United States and are prohibited to the states, like the power to emit bills of credit. Emitting bills of credit means to print paper money. Some powers are not delegated to the United States and not prohibited to the states, like the power to pass laws on inheritance. So the first simple sentence of the 10th Amendment under consideration is, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution are reserved to the states respectively. In this diagram, the powers reserved to the states are in the white area outside the circle represented by delegated powers. The second simple sentence of the 10th Amendment under consideration is, the powers not prohibited by the Constitution to the states are reserved to the states respectively. In this diagram, the powers reserved to the states are in the white area. This Venn diagram is what Madisonian federalism looks like. So we can see that the powers that were taken back by the states with the 10th Amendment were significant, including some powers that were originally granted to the federal government, like the power to make bankruptcy laws. The Alien and Sedition Acts abridged free speech and gave the president the power to deport aliens on a whim. This was a political power grab by the Federalist Party to prevent criticism of their policies. Kentucky and Virginia passed resolutions to nullify the Alien and Sedition Acts as unjust laws under natural law doctrines. Thomas Jefferson secretly wrote the Kentucky Resolution and led the political opposition to Hamiltonian Federalists in power in Washington, D.C. The political war between Hamiltonian Federalism and Jeffersonian Federalism was so loud that it obscured the actual federalism the Constitution provided for, which was Madisonian Federalism. Although Jefferson secretly wrote the Kentucky Resolution, James Madison secretly wrote the Virginia Resolutions. The Virginia Resolution specifically declared that the exercise of the power of nullifying the Alien and Sedition Acts was a power exercisable by each state, under each state's authority to determine what was necessary and proper. Madison, who wrote the 10th Amendment and knew its power, clearly understood that although the power to determine what was a necessary and proper law had originally been a federal power, under Hamiltonian federalism was now a power held by the states within their respective borders. When South Carolina tried to nullify tariff laws passed by Congress, Madison declared that such nullification was not allowed. Although he was accused of being inconsistent on the matter, he stated that he was not. Without being very clear in his explanations, it's obvious that since tariffs are taxes on items outside of the borders of a state, the 10th Amendment doesn't shield the states from federal tariffs. So we can see that in the legalese war between the Necessary and Proper Clause and the 10th Amendment won inside the states, but the Necessary and Proper Clause won outside the borders of the states. The legalese war was ignored for the political war between Hamiltonian federalism and Jeffersonian federalism. The Jeffersonians refused to recognize what the Necessary and Proper Clause actually did, and the Hamiltonians refused to recognize what the 10th Amendment did. Both the Jeffersonians and the Hamiltonians read the 10th Amendment with the words "and not" in the place of the word "nor." This reading results in a Venn diagram that looks like this, with the white area representing state power. Federal power under the "and not" interpretation is the union of powers delegated to the United States and powers prohibited to the states. But the word in the 10th Amendment is "nor," not the words "and not." State powers within the respective states are everything but the intersection of powers delegated to the United States and prohibited to the states. Basically, treaty law and most of the war-making power are all that are left to the federal government within the borders of the several states of the Union. Earlier in this video, a claim was made that whoever was responsible for the attacks of September 11, 2001 had to be an enemy of the state of New York and of the United States of America. The World Trade Center in New York was, on September 11, 2001, operated under the authority of the New York-New Jersey Port Authority. The Port Authority allows officials of the state of New York to operate in the state of New Jersey and officials of the state of New Jersey to operate within the state of New York. This arrangement qualifies as a treaty, an alliance, and a confederation. Under the Constitution for the United States of America, Article 1, Section 10, the state of New York and the state of New Jersey would have had required the permission of the Congress of the United States to operate this alliance. Had creation of the Port Authority failed to secure the proper permission from Congress, such an action would have put the areas of the Port Authority in rebellion against the United States. This point is irrelevant because the 10th Amendment to the Constitution for the United States of America removes the power of Congress to suppress rebellions within the states. On these principles, we can clearly identify that anyone who was responsible for the attacks on September 11, 2001 is an enemy of the United States of America and accountable for treason for continuing to support the idea that the federal government had any authority to suppress a rebellion at the Port Authority absent a specific request from the state of New York as pursuant to Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution for the United States of America. This interpretation has complicated implications for the Civil War, but those will be addressed later. This leaves us with Madisonian federalism. Madison himself wasn't always vocal in defending it, but there is no other legitimate way to interpret the Constitution for the United States of America. Madisonian federalism defeated most of the Hamiltonian federalism. Jeffersonian federalism never really existed in the actual Constitution. To exercise the laws of the state of Alabama or the nation of France within the borders of the Commonwealth of Virginia are equally treasonable acts. Is it treason to support federal agents and officers who operate within the borders of the several states of the Union? Is it treason for state officials who try to implement federal laws? In general, it is treason to support a foreign government over a domestic government, but there are a few exceptions that might apply. The three major exceptions to federal activity within the several states of the Union that the federal government attempts to exercise are treaty law, the territorial deception, and 14th Amendment powers. Treaties made by the President of the United States of America with the advice and consent of the Senate of the United States of America can have the power to override state lawmaking power and state jurisdiction. Many of the laws Congress passes only apply within federal enclaves like Washington, D.C. and military bases. Legalese is used to disguise that most of the laws that Congress passes have no effect within the several states of the Union. This concept will be referred to as the territorial deception. One intent of the 14th Amendment was to create a federal citizenship of second-class citizens who would be directly subject to the federal authority even within the several states of the Union. Unlike those who derive their citizenship from the preamble to the Constitution, this second class of citizen, called 14th Amendment citizens, would also not be entitled to the protections of the Bill of Rights. The federal government's use of treaty law, the territorial deception, and 14th Amendment citizenship will be examined in the next few parts of this video.